Hi there, reader. Thanks for joining me today. This is a very special Tumbler, and it's part of the World Book Day collaboration hosted by Kernix Creations. I will have the playlist in my description. Check that out when you're done here. Don't miss those other videos. Now, let's get into my theme for this Tumbler today.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
This was a show that was on TV in the US. I don't know if it was anywhere else. During the 80s and I think the early 90s. And it was hosted by LeVar Burton. He was also on Star Trek. I'll talk a little bit more about the show later on. I'm going to be doing an alcohol ink rainbow swirl on my tumbler, and I will be adding a little bit of corresponding neon glitter to it. I'm using the Marabou neon colors as well as a Marabou aqua color. These are my inspiration glitters. These are from Glitter Heart Co. It is their neon set. And you can save money on your order from there by using my code KKStudio. I decided I wanted to focus primarily on the hot pink and the coral. That coral color of glitter is actually my favorite in the set. I do wish I had been a little more even as far as the sizes of the different colors, but I think it turned out okay in the end. I'm a fan of all things books, libraries, independent bookstores, online booksellers, school libraries. I love it all. Yeah, if you drop alcohol ink on top of alcohol ink, you can end up with a fisheye. It can be really difficult to cover up depending on the color you're using. I do have a couple of fisheyes that happen, and I just can't fix them. I'll end up covering those up later. This neon yellow color screams summer to me. I'm ready to go swimming. The yellow swirl is much smaller than the orange, the coral, and the hot pink. Mr. Kitschy and I are proud patrons and sponsors of our local independent bookstore, A Seat at the Table Books. And while this is local to us in Elk Grove, California, you can support them by buying online. Check out their website that's shown above. It's not just a bookstore. It's a community center. It's inclusive and welcomes all people and is a safe space for a lot of folks who don't feel safe right now. They have cool gifts as well as books, a cafe, meeting spaces, you name it, they've got it, and we love it there. Emily and Ryan are the owners of the bookstore. Hi Emily, hi Ryan. Thank you for everything you do. We're truly proud to be able to call you our friends. I decided I wanted to add a book charm to the surface of this tumbler. I originally was going to try to find a little book charm, but instead I decided to make it out of polymer clay myself. So that's what I'm doing here. I am using Sculpey Primo white polymer clay, and in order to condition it and make it soft, I chop it up into these little pieces. I do end up having to add a lot more. I used my pasta machine on, I think, the second setting, and I just wanted to get it to be sort of uniform and flat. This was going to be the pages, but it ends up being the book cover instead. So I'm just cutting this, and excuse my head popping in. Despite the fact that I have really great crafting and reading glasses, I still have to lean forward to look sometimes. Speaking of the joys of getting older, as I'm recording this voiceover, it's Mr. Kitschy's birthday. Happy birthday, honey. I hope your day is amazing. I am doing a lot of talking in this video. I don't normally do this much talking, so thanks for sticking with me if you're still here. I wanted the book cover to be as fun as the rest of the tumbler. So I'm using Arteza's mica powders, and I'm using a bright pink and a purple. I put the purple around the corners where you would normally see a little more wear and tear on the cover itself on a real book. I was not too precise when I made these pages, and I think that actually worked to my advantage. It makes the pages look a little worn, and that matches the cover, so that's fine with me. I do end up coloring these with white mica powder, but I have to paint over that later, so ignore that. Now that this is colored, I'm putting it on my baking tumbler. I have a tumbler set aside specifically for baking polymer clay items, and I only use it for baking. And here it is, fresh from the oven. I really like the way this turned out. So cute. You could also use air dry clay. I just didn't want to have to wait for it to dry. All right, so that's about where I'm going to be putting the book, and this is the vinyl I'm going to be using. How beautiful is this? Butterflies are a part of the theme song for Reading Rainbow, and I thought this would be perfect. I had actually ordered another vinyl to use, but it didn't get here in time. I want to make sure that I'm getting full butterflies in the strips that I cut. I'm also going to strategically place these strips to cover up any oopsies I may have had, like the fisheye and the colors. Now I'm just fitting them to see how long I need to make them. And I'm going to do a very cool trick to help hide the seam. I'm going to cut out a full butterfly to overlap. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Okay, so you can kind of see it there. And I'm just making sure everything is where I want it to be. And I do want the seam to be the exact opposite of the book, so I make that marking up top. I'm using my architect's ruler to make a straight line, approximately where each strip is going to go. I forgot to cut off the white part. I thought that was actually backing, but it's not. It's just where the printing on the vinyl ended. And you can use your squeegee to make sure no bubbles happen. And Bob's your uncle. I'll be doing the exact same thing with the second strip. Okay, back to reading. Reading is especially important at this time in our country. Books are being banned and knowledge is being withheld. It's an incredibly peaceful act of resistance to ensure that you continue reading, and especially to read banned books. I highly encourage it. Free speech and a free press are just two of the things that our country is built on. We have to make sure that continues. And reading is a very easy way to do that. I'm going to be adding resin and glitter to the rainbow parts, but I don't want it to get onto my vinyl, so I do cover it up with this painter's tape. It works pretty well. I still end up with a little bit of resin underneath, and that just happens. There's nothing I can do about that. I just wipe it off later. I'm using Mr. Nola's glass coat. This is a regular setting 1:1 Tumbler epoxy. I think I used a total of 5 milliliters. It couldn't have been much more than that if it was at all. I'm not going heavy-handed with the glitter, as you'll see in a moment, so I didn't need to use that much. Here I am, popping bubbles. Okay, it's time for glitter. I start with my lightest color first. If that gets into the other colors, it's very easy to cover up. But when the darker colors get into the other colors, it's much more difficult to cover. I started out with the neon yellow, and now I'm going to the orange. I love these colors so much. You can see I'm not pouring directly from the container, and that's because I don't want this to be very heavy. I don't want it to cover up the watercolor look of my rainbow. I'm just sprinkling it from in my hand. I don't need a ton. I just need enough to really get that sparkle across. Yes, glitter is life. If you love reading and all things books, I highly recommend you look for Michael Threets on social media. He was a librarian and he is amazing. He's so positive, so uplifting, and is so encouraging when it comes to local libraries. I got to meet him at my bookstore and I fangirled so hard. Okay, you can see that this purple does not go with the neon colors. I don't know what I was thinking. I grabbed the wrong purple. I don't know why I didn't stop the moment I opened it, but I didn't. So here I am scraping off some of it. I couldn't get all of it, but I did get most of it. And now I'm finishing up with this really pretty semi-translucent opal glitter. You can still see the color through it. It doesn't cover that at all, but it's going to give it this really beautiful iridescent sparkle. Pro tip, make sure you remove your tape before it cures. As long as you haven't globbed on the resin, it's not going to travel into the areas you don't want it at this point. I let this spin overnight, and then I go ahead and I seal in that glitter using my favorite sealer, Adhesive Apothecary's Binding Potion. All right, so this has dried, and now I am going in with my next coat of epoxy, and this is to create a smooth surface. Time to apply the book. Ignore the writing on there. I end up having to change that later. I'm using a bead of UV resin around the edges to attach this. I could have used glue, but I'm going to do another layer of epoxy, which is going to help seal this in even more, so the glue is not needed. I do give this a final cure of about 5 minutes. I'm just flash curing it there. So I decided to make my own decals, and I needed to cover them to waterproof them. I chose holographic covering. I thought it looked really pretty. In hindsight, it would have been much easier to use something that was not holographic, but it works out in the end. Any bubbles that happen just get popped with my craft knife, and then I smooth down the vinyl. This goes into my Cricut for a quick cut, but no. My Cricut stopped cutting partway through and ended up with the flashing red light of death. It does still work, but I was determined not to waste material, so I cut all of that out myself. The main decal is going directly across the tumbler from the book. The saying came from the theme song to Reading Rainbow. It's what I was going to write in the book itself, and that didn't end up working out very well. I'm now applying my butterflies. I wanted to apply these in a swirl pattern that mimicked my rainbow. This blue butterfly is the most important. Before he passed away, my dad promised he would send me blue butterflies to let me know he was around. And I see them all the time. I miss him so much. He was actually one of the first people to teach me to read. He read to me all the time. I remember him reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to me, as well as The Hobbit. I need to give a shout out to my stepmom, Deanna. She was a librarian at New York Public Library for years and had a huge hand in helping me appreciate libraries. Thank you, Deanna. I love you. I made new writing on the book, and I go to seal it in here. You'll see what happens. Oh, Oops. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Plan Z, here it is!
Plan Z it is. My Cricut has major issues when cutting out tiny letters. This is why I didn't do it in vinyl from the get-go. But I thought, what if I can use heat transfer vinyl? Maybe I can get it to stick. It's worth a shot. It has an easy time cutting that out. I give it some fresh paint, and I put a layer of UV resin over it to protect the paint. The company that makes this UV resin has a sale going on for 20% off your order of $100 or more. I do several layers of this UV resin. I just want to make sure that I have that paint protected. First, I try applying it directly there and using my heat gun. It doesn't stick. So then I try to use this method. Uh-oh. That wasn't supposed to happen either. So then I thought, well, if I can't get it to stick, maybe I can get it to stick to regular adhesive vinyl.
Get out of town. That worked? That is preposterous. Who knew?
Day of Erica was clearly impressed. Excuse the squeak toy in the background. My dog Astro loves anything that squeaks. This truly is a game-changing technique for those of us whose Cricuts will not cut out small letters. I can't believe it worked. It's on to my second to last coat of epoxy. I'm using Mr. Nola's Speed Dry here, and I will let it spin for 4 hours. This will get a final coat of glass coat regular setting epoxy, but for now, this tumbler is all done. I really, really love this tumbler. I love the way it turned out. I can't stop looking at it. And even though I had some challenges with it, I think I was able to overcome those really successfully. I plan on using this tumbler almost every day. I just love looking at it. It makes me happy. Support your local libraries, your local bookstores, and the libraries in the schools around you. Let's make sure that future generations have access to the kind of awesome literature that we did growing up. And don't forget to keep reading. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, my kitschy cats and kittens, and I'll see you soon.